All right, and then we're recording again, so we'll do the clap. Right?
Yeah.
All right, I'll do my clap.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. You want to do one together just for like fun?
Yeah, we'll do it on go. We'll try to sync it this time.
Become drift compatible.
Hell yeah. 3, 2, 1, go. We'll get it. There will be other episodes.
Yeah.
You want to try one more time?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go. I think that worked.
That was nice. That was
nice.
Fun. I like that. All right, you want to play rock, paper, scissors?
I would love to play rock, paper. So we're going, do you go on go or do you go on?
What did The Rock do in that one TikTok? Did you see that one?
He got really mad at
he got really like, you cheated.
Yeah.
He was like, bro.
He's like, I'm 1/3 of this game.
She's
so
like 19. Like, calm down.
Let's go on go.
Okay.
We'll go.
The rock, paper, scissors, go?
Yes.
Or like
or shoot, I guess.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Or 2 out of 3 or 1?
Maybe
this is 2-1.
This is 2-1, yeah.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right.
Does
that mean I'm doing it, or does that mean you're doing
we
it?
We didn't establish that before.
This is where I shift the whole game on you.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to We Need One More.
Yeah.
So this is the first episode, if you couldn't tell.
Episode 1. We're going to be troubleshooting this as we go throughout the year, so strap in. It's going to be fun.
It'll be fun. I am one of your hosts, Matthew Davis Morris.
I'm David Patrick Vera.
And a little bit before we kind of get into what the kind of content, the meat of this episode is going to be, we just wanted to kind of just establish the show, and we're really excited to be doing this. We've been talking about doing a podcast for a while.
Yeah. Just a teensy bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
And we like the not to get ahead of ourselves, but like, kind of asked ourselves, do we need one more?
Do we need exactly? We really did. We're like, should we even? Is it worth it to do another
we're
podcast?
Already like a couple of white guys.
Letterboxd
should
users,
we? Should we maybe do a podcast? I don't know.
But I think after some time, we just thought that it would be something that was fun for us to do and go back and look at movies that we grew up on. And I think that, we're both actors and filmmakers and we write together and stuff like that. And I think, we spend, there's a good portion of those writing sessions that we've had in the past where we basically do what we're about to do right now. Yeah. So this is the kind of the I guess the log line, right, of the series is a series of podcasts discussing series of films. We're going to take each episode and we're going to look at, a specific movie in a franchise or just a general, property, I guess, for lack of a better word. And we want to see, there's the commercial aspect of movie making of, well, this made money, so let's make another one.
Yeah.
But I think really the question that we always like to wonder is like, is there story? Is there room to go and stuff like that?
Like, not can we? Because obviously, there's a number of bad sequels, prequels, and spin-offs. So obviously not like can we, but more the Jurassic Park should we? Like kind of.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I started this podcast with a Goldblum impression.
It was inevitable, dude.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, we want to see, do we really need one more of these, either from the movie itself that we're looking at, right? Today we're covering Spiderman 2002. We can look at
Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
That's true, written by David Koepp, who also I think wrote Jurassic Park.
He did. I think he did a lot. He does a lot of Spielberg stuff.
He does.
I believe he's really good.
I do.
That's the thing. When I was rewatching this, I was just like, so many of the writing choices are so like, like from like a character standpoint, are like really, really, really good. Especially for like a superhero blockbuster. Like we're not getting this level of writing anymore, I think.
Well, like I was talking to my girlfriend Laura about this. We was finishing up the movie, and I was like, this movie really was a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
Obviously, again, kind of from a commercial element, this is the first movie to ever make $100 million in its opening box office.
Really big deal.
Yeah,
and like a superhero movie did this too. Like not like a Spielberg or like a Ridley Scott. Like
it kind of came out of nowhere.
The guy who did Evil Dead and Darkman was like just like stunting on everyone.
I will get this out of the way right now. I'm a massive Sam Raimi fan, as I know you are.
Yeah, I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan. I guess I got to do the rounds. I'm missing a couple movies from him.
I feel you.
Namely Darkman.
Darkman rules, man. There's some Darkman stuff we'll talk about a little bit later, but yeah. So we just kind of wanted to look back and see if we really need more of these, and we're gonna
with the whole multiverse rage, I guess, for this first series of 3, the Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man. I guess the question is, do we want to go back to that world and see, Tobey Maguire specifically do another Spider-Man movie. So.
Yeah, especially because I mean, No Way Home was such a massive moment for 1,000 reasons, but like getting to see Tobey back was such a nice, like, was a really,
it's a nice treat.
It was a really nice treat, and it's really fun to see him back and just jump right back into that role.
Yeah.
But to do a whole nother movie, while there is a part, we'll get to the answer when we get to Spider-Man 3.
You have to wait 3 episodes to get to that answer. We're not going to jump the gun yet.
Exactly.
Unless we do it by accident.
That's true.
Very well happen.
Just drop it right now. But yeah, we want to take a look back, and Spider-Man is a character that means a lot to everybody, but a lot to us.
Yeah, we each got like our own like journey with Spider-Man, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first short film that I directed. We had co-directed with you.
Yes.
And it was a Spider-Man film.
Yes.
So, it does kind of hold a lot. I guess maybe before we jump into the movie itself, we do see like this movie to you.
Yes.
Like, what is it? Like, how does this movie come about for you? What does it mean, as you were growing up watching it and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I got to see it in theaters. It was 2002, so I was like 7. And it's like funny is like I grew up watching the cartoon, did not have like a lot of context for like what the comic industry was or like what like a franchise movie. Like I literally was like learning what these things were as the movies were like coming out. And like because this movie was coming out, my uncle and my dad were like, oh, like they don't like actually know the full like scope of the Marvel universe. And like that became like a whole like bonding thing for like my dad, my uncle, and my brother and I, and my brother, who we all know is our Spider-Man in our short films. So it's like kind of like this really fun, like it's a really like integral like part of my identity, I know for sure. And it's like I can't quite remember exactly. It's like one of those movies that it's like so early in like my youth that I feel like I've always have seen it. But I remember like walking out of the theater being like, this like rules.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And like, but also being like completely like spoiled. Like I just thought they were all good. And then it's like, no, there's actually like a lot of bad movies, like for superheroes, like specifically, like
especially around that time. Cause obviously there's Superman and Blade and X-Men were just recent, but like there was also Superman 4 and there was the Captain America one and
we're hot off the heels of Batman and Robin. Like
that's true.
Like we're not doing Batman movies right now. Like like people are like, don't do superheroes right now.
I mean, my kind of what you were saying about this movie kind of always being there is kind of my experience with it, to be honest. I was 4 when this movie came out. And so this is one where like I was just on the cusp of like full consciousness.
Yeah. When were you born again? 90?
I was born 98.
98.
I was born
okay,
into 98.
I was 94.
Okay, yeah. So
not to date myself like in the first episode, but
so like I do remember Spider-Man 3, which we'll get to obviously eventually. But
we'll get to that. I have a lot of like thoughts about like,
I'm stoked
like
to talk about
how hyped I was. Like I had like the widget like on a computer that didn't even have the internet. Like
good. But yeah, like that was my experience. Was like it was just kind of always around. Like it was the movie. I do vividly remember playing the video game on Xbox.
The movie tie-in game.
The movie tie-in game
with the Bruce Campbell like tutorial narration.
Yeah, him being like, "So you want to swing a whip?" Like,
I'll be right back. I'm gonna make a sandwich.
Like I do remember playing that and doing the initial like trying to find Dennis Carradine, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, it's kind of just always been there, and like obviously the character means a ton. Like he's such a, and we'll get into kind of what makes Peter Parker, I think, such a compelling protagonist. But like I don't know, I just fell in love with it from the beginning. I remember having the big like silly string web shooter.
Yeah, see, I wasn't allowed those things.
Well, I tried to use it to like swing. Like I was like, this should work. So I literally did like what.
Oh, is that how you broke your knees? Or like?
Yeah. I remember being like at the top of my stairs as like a kid and like, spraying it like not like on like the railing, but just being like a couple steps.
Okay, I was like you're at the top of your steps, like Kevin McAllister with the sled.
I wish. But yeah, like doing that and being like, oh, I guess I can't swing with this like Spider-Man and trying to find a way to. But like, yeah, this movie has just always been around and it's always been iconic. And I think as there's that brief period, I think when you're like a teen where you start to be maybe the most cynical kind of person on the planet. And so I remember looking back at these movies when I was like 15-ish and being like, these movies are silly and kind of a thing. And they're not like grounded and real or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I, like 6 months later, I was like, what am I talking about? These movies rule. They're
Well, I remember thinking that for a really long time. And then last year when they did the re-release, it was like, no, this is like so like part of the like design. Like it it's hammy, but like that's what makes it work. Like,
oh yeah. And like we'll get into it a little bit later, but J. Jonah Jameson I think is such a great example of that, of like
J.K. Simmons, like the GOAT.
Pitch perfect.
Like he, not to like jump ahead, but when he does the did I write it? Oh, the thanks for the good news. Like your wife lost your checkbook. Thanks for the good news. Like I started cackling like the other night when I was watching it. And I was like laughing like really hard. Like I forgot how funny he is.
He's so
in
good.
These movies.
And I guess to reference what you're just saying, like earlier last year they re-released these movies, all the Spider-Man movies, but also these Raimi movies in theaters, and we went and saw all 3 of them.
Yes.
And
which was very cool.
Really cool experience.
Really cool.
To like see and to like feel
the
to
weight
like be
with
them.
Like an audience. Like it was like, I'm like, oh my, I feel like I'm like in 2002, like all over again. Like
absolutely.
But like I'm a grown man, like I'm doing some Back to the Future antics where I'm just like, what was the crowd like on that day? True.
And like, well, even like these movies are like, 20 years old and stuff like that. And there's some technical stuff that we'll get into that like maybe hasn't aged as, super well, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, they're so like the impact of them, even if people who presumably were sitting in that theater like us have seen the movie hundreds of thousands of times.
Yeah.
Like it's still so like organic, like
incredibly
the reaction that you get. But yeah, these movies they're
really good.
And it is really like the superhero boom. Like obviously Iron Man, the Nolan Batman.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a whole different like level that this is gonna get taken to. But like it basically starts here.
Yeah.
Even though we've had like a really successful Superman movie and a really successful Batman movie, it's like this is like the floodgates being broken open.
I think even looking at Raimi as a director doing this, he notoriously was like the whole thing is that he's like, his agent was like, there are 17 people that they're looking at, and he's like, well, make sure I'm number 18 or whatever. Like,
and they're like, oh, well, I was gonna say you're like number 3, but like
they were like, we don't have to go that.
He's like, I did not stutter on 18. I'm not gonna walk that back.
Like, I think when you look at the earlier superhero movies and stuff like that, and this is no disrespect to those filmmakers because those movies are wonderful, Superman, Batman, all those ones. But I think Raimi has been on record many, many times being like, I am a massive Spider-Man fan. Yeah, I love Spider-Man. I grew up
He's got
loving
like
Spider-Man.
An insane comic collection apparently, or maybe he had it at one point and had to sell it. I'm not quite sure.
But like
the status of that, I'm sure he's got it back by now. But
true. But like I think that really shows itself in the movie where like, there's always that kind of like early this era. There's a lot of like, how do we do this, but like not have to do it? Like even like Ang Lee's Hulk, a movie that I enjoy. Like has stuff where like
I was gonna say when I was watching it, I was like, we gotta put Hulk in the lineup.
I would love to put Hulk in the lineup.
Yeah, we should.
But
spoilers.
It's like true. But even then, it's like how do we like? They were like talking about drafts of that movie where it was like Hulk fights like just like the military. Like they were like, how do we get it so that we just
like,
have
how
Hulk,
to get the balance of this whole thing,
and we don't really have anything else. Like we can just pull the character. Yeah. But this movie, Spider-Man 2002, feels so much like a person who knows the source material. And respects it.
Yeah, and like understands like Peter Parker and Spider-Man like as a core like person.
Totally.
Like, just like his values and everything is like because like we know like the James Cameron pitch and stuff where it's the Fly, but it's DiCaprio and it's sexy. Like and it's
there's like a version of the character that like the villain is like kind of Kingpin, kind of Electro, kind of a you know what I mean? And again, like James Cameron,
it will be Crimson Dynamo and.
What?
Actually, there's no basis for that joke. I just
it's Crimson Dynamo. He's fun.
Before you come at me in the comics, they're like, that was never a consideration.
But yeah, like I think Raimi knows why the character works and why he's always worked and always kind of withstood the test of time. And he was like, well, let's just put that on screen. Like I know people were talking about, and again, something that I like looking back and looking at people talk about this movie. It's like. When that first photo comes out of the Spider-Man costume, everyone's like, "Oh, they just did the suit." Like that, and that moment of like
2 years before his X-Men, and they're like, "Yellow spandex."
Yeah, they're mocking.
No,
it.
They're mocking it actively in the movie.
Yeah,
they're like, he can have that hair, but not the suit.
Yeah, sorry. No, they're like yellow spandex. Sorry, doesn't work. And like you even get like the Chris Reeve Superman.
Yeah.
That they do the costume right, but it is just kind of the like obviously it's the 70s. It's just kind of the like lycra.
Yeah.
Whereas the Toby suit is there's so much dimension to it.
It's still like the best suit probably.
100%.
Like it just looks the best when they do like when he's clearly like completely CGI it like it renders the best.
Yeah.
Like it just like I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but
Agreed.
even when you see like BTS like footage of that suit, it looks like he's CGI, and I don't know why.
Well, there's always that talk about, and I think that Michael Bay Transformers is a similar thing where they're like, well, like red doesn't photograph super well when it's just like flat, and so like that raised webbing, or I know Optimus, they make him a little more blue, which
yeah,
like,
they really lean into blue,
but like I think that again, like the dimension of it, being able to add texture to it so that when light hits it, it looks a little more tactile and tangible. And so even like in the effects, this is like 2001, right, where they're doing these effects.
Yeah.
Like they're not
like inventing new technology to pull it off.
Yeah. And I also think it's, obviously shout out, like looking at the guy who's doing the effects, obviously it's a whole team. But John Dykstra worked on this movie, and he also is the guy that invented the Dykstra flex, like for Star Wars, for the original Star Wars. Like
walk me through that. What is that?
It's like motion control.
Oh, motion control.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a really big deal.
He's a that whole ILM team, but like you've got these.
Shout out ILM. Like they really were like, but this thing doesn't exist, so I guess we're gonna figure it out.
That Light and Magic docuseries on Disney Plus is like so
I need to watch it.
So good. And they talk about Dykstra and like how impactful he is, and like you see his name in the credits and you're like, all right, this is gonna rip. And like it does. Like like I know the movie caught flack at the time for some of its effects. But even then, it's like it doesn't bother me that much.
I think because the story's so like there's such a strong direction with the story and everything. It's like even when there's some like wonky like CGI or something, or it's just like it doesn't bother you.
Yeah,
like it doesn't.
I do want to say, going into the story, I miss cool opening credit sequences.
I love good credit sequences. I'm at a divide with my girlfriend Abby. She does not like long drawn out credit sequences.
Sure.
She's okay like if it's like, oh, people are talking and the movie's happening and the credits are going, but like something like the Spider-Man intro, she's just like checked out for it.
Yeah, checking the watch.
And I'm like,
kind of a thing.
I'm like, nah, Danny Elfman's like doing what he do.
Well, I also think what helps with it, like one, it's just cool. I think it's Spider-Man 2, and we'll get to it, doing it as a recap, I think is such a smart choice. But
yes,
even
that's a note. You're like getting ahead of me on that one.
Even in this one, like we're almost, I think I have it in my notes that it was like we're basically letting Elfman kind of just like flex and show you
and like redefine the sound of this guy.
Yeah, and like you get this theme that's obvious, it's so iconic,
it's so good.
And like you have this with the Tim Burton Batman one too, where you kind of open on that and you just have Elfman just absolutely going crazy,
setting the tone for everything that's about to happen.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason that that theme digs into your ears so much is because the whole movie starts with the presentation of the theme.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and then you get the little visual like pops of the Goblin and New York and the webs and all this other stuff, and just getting to like
it's got like that sort of like it's very Elfman, but it's also got that like sweeping John Williams like scope.
I have one in my notes. I'm like, it feels, which I think this goes with a lot of Raimi's stuff, and I'll probably bring up, but these movies in particular feel so very like classic Hollywood,
very classic.
And
Hollywood.
I think the opening credits are a big like indicator of that too. That like it's like it's like like West Side Story or whatever. Like it starts very just like just kind of sweeping and classical, which I think
very
is really
classical. It is. This is like a gold standard for like what a blockbuster should be.
Sure.
And Danny Elfman's like score is like very much like a part of that. Like I don't know, the music is here to like tell the story.
And then we go into a very classic. I mean, it's been this whole series has been memed.
I literally just have so many memes. That's like and I should have pulled like a list of all of them, but like just like. I was about to say Pizza Time, but that's 2, so I guess we'll wait until next week for that.
True.
But
3 is littered with them.
3 is like it's like SpongeBob. You're just like there's like a treasure trove of like internet jokes.
Yeah,
like
100%.
But yeah, like okay, yeah. So we jump into the movie. It's the bus sequence.
Yes.
The narration. I have a note that's just like even the other nerds don't like him. Yeah. Like there's like the one girl that's just like
like yeah, everybody hates. I have well, so one, I do think it's funny. I was like Peter already being able to basically chase a school bus down. Like MJ has at one point, she's like, I'm not indicating obviously that the movie's trying to like tell you anything, but I just was like, he's been following them for a while. Like at the very least, he has endurance already.
Dude should be on track. Like he like I don't know what the distance is, but like he's been chasing that bus for a minute.
Oh yeah, they say, I don't know the geography of New York super well, but like it seems like he's been following them for a pretty long time. But I have a note that you're talking about the nerds, even the nerds hating Peter. I wrote, like, God must really hate Peter Parker because he's decided that everybody is going to do whatever they can to just go after him.
Yeah, they're not even, like, passive. They're, like, actively laughing at his, like, misfortune in this movie.
Which is that, like, you know, we're doing that, like, I think this movie, like, specifically, and, like, so many of my notes in the beginning is, like, we're at minute 5, we're already established X, Y, Z, you know, ABC or whatever. Like, the movie is so strong in its opening of just like establishing everything of like who these people are, what their relations are to each other, to other people. It's a master
class in setup.
Oh yeah, like we're 5 minutes in and we're already in the origin. You know what I mean? It wastes no time.
Yeah, we've met the girl, we've met the guy. We're aware of the dynamic of the social chain, and then 5 minutes later he meets the villain, who they meet for the first time at the field trip, which I thought was such a good choice because it's such a natural, like, oh, I'm so-and-so. Oh, I hear you do that. Like, we're learning about this stuff with them and like, and not like a very like, oh, I hear you're going to be Spider-Man. Like, it's not like, it's like we've seen like, it's kind of like the wink, like we're some kind of Suicide Squad. Like we've seen some of that nonsense more recently, I think, but like the way it's such a natural, like evolution of like information, or not evolution, I guess, but like just the just all the nuggets of info that we're getting. It's like so like inceptioned into us.
Well, even
as it unfolds,
the moment when Norman is Norman's dropping Harry off, right? Norman's driver is dropping Harry off, and Norman's sitting back there with him, and Harry's like, "Can't we just pull around? Like, you don't really have to drop me off in front of here." And Norman's kind of like, "Whoa, like, what's the big deal?" Like, Harry is already so like, he's oddly embarrassed, like his relationship with his dad. Yeah, he wants to fit in, but also he's embarrassed by his dad. Him and dad.
His journey is honestly kind of tragic. It's really sad.
It really is.
Rewatching it,
I do have so many notes in this first one. Harry is such a petty.
He's my guy. Second movie, I'm just like so petty.
I have a note that
so
it says
petty.
Harry is at both times the best friend and worst friend to Peter Parker.
Well, he's not a great friend. Like in the beginning, he's just like straight up like stealing his lines. Like he's like, "Oh, you're not gonna do it? I'm gonna show you that these lines can work." Like,
well, because like they go in and like Peter's like, you know, he gets confronted by Flash and Flash's kind of like other friends.
Yeah. And a Harry, teacher who's maybe the same age.
And a teacher. I have a note that says maybe the definitive teacher of all time.
Yes.
I can't help. I quote, like, we've quoted that guy, like,
we have.
Knock it off, like all that stuff.
You were talking through that guy's whole presentation.
Let's talk about how we listen. Like all that stuff is like so good. And that actor, I feel bad I didn't look his name up. Like he's so perfect. And like
he's really good. Like it's like funny. Like it's just like that weird thing of like it's that like we don't actually cast children right now. We go 27 and up for our high schoolers.
15, 16-year-olds. Like
I'm the guy that they would look at now, like at the back of the day, like currently to play 16, which is like wild to me.
And I just love their like when before the teacher breaks them up, Harry stands up for Peter and he's like, "Hey, like why don't you back off, all this stuff." And then 2 seconds later, he uses Peter's line that he mocked in front. He was like, "Who would ever want to know that?" And he goes right up to MJ and just spouts the same thing. And it works. And she, is fascinated by it and all this other stuff. Like, I just think Harry is such an he's such a jerk in such the perfect like supporting character way of like. Yeah. Later in the movie when he's like, Peter, you didn't make a move. And he's like, well, you are actively using his moves against him. Like MJ was with somebody. Like Harry is just such an interestingly, kind of back and forth guy, which I think is so fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Tobey Maguire is walking around and he's being the most like earnest, like
he's pretty puppy dog.
Yeah, like, school paper, like all that stuff. He's so
small. Like
he really is.
Like he takes up like no space.
Something that I love that he kind of brings throughout the franchise is I have rewatching it. His eyes, he's so like expressive with them, which I adore. Like every moment, every kind of like look and glance.
Yeah.
Like he like kind of like the puppy dog thing. Like you can just tell exactly what's going on. But yeah, we jump right into the origin. We go right into understanding that, the little wave that Peter gives MJ, and like, there's like a lot of shorthand going on, which I say is like a compliment.
Yeah.
That we get to like, we don't need to over explain too much. We're going to continue to get into these characters as the movie goes on.
Yeah. Just
right now, you just need to know how they relate to each other.
It's pretty baller. So, okay, so we're at the telescope. We're at the spider. He takes the photos. He gets bit. His hand swells up to the size of a grapefruit, and he's just like, "Nah, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm just gonna be a man, sleep it off."
He had a crash. He had a rough day. I just think the fact that he comes home and like his again, this is like a glowing review of Tobey's performance. He's such a teenager about it. Like when they come in, because the introduction of Aunt May and Uncle Ben, once we get past the spider bite and everything like that, like it's that like very strong shorthand, and like you have Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris just
pitch perfect casting,
acting like their hearts out, and and when Peter enters the scene, he is such a perfect teenager. He just throws his backpack on the ground.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, bye.
Yeah, he's just, I don't.
Goes right up the stairs, which I don't know. It's probably something that I had definitely done to my parents when I was growing up. So that's
yeah, easy. I'm just like in beeline straight from my bed. Like, and then I'm going to like play on my phone for an hour. Like,
oh yeah. And I think what's really great about the opening, again, not just about the shorthand between the characters, but I think doing Goblin and Spidey's origin at like really cross-cutting them both, they feel like obviously Goblin is the antagonist, but we kind of are treating them both as protagonists at the beginning. Yeah. We're both kind of following their
wild choice as like a CEO to like inject yourself with something potentially very dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like kind of a baller CEO move to be like, I'm not going to risk anyone else's life. I'm going to put mine on the line, which is a good reminder that this is a work of fiction.
Yes,
I think
that is true. Well, I also think going into these, all these villains in this series in particular, like ego is such a big part of all of their backstories and upbringing, kind of, what creates them. And Dafoe really brings that home, not just as a CEO, but also just like that moment where he's like, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but when he drinks the goblin juice, I suppose
10,000 years of human evolution come to this,
and he just smashes it on the ground. Just the like just like the not caring about anything else, doing it only for himself, I feel like is where that comes from. And I think it's such a strong choice. I mean, Willem Dafoe,
dude's never made a wrong choice on screen. Like, good movie, bad movie, he's like, give me the Oscar.
I had watched Nosferatu like a couple days before this, and watching these back to back, I'm like, Dafoe, what a blessing it is to be around as Dafoe is just creating this story.
I forgot what I was watching that he was in, but because I was looking at a different movie that he was in. But dude just really just like runs around for like a week on everyone's movie. Yeah, like just like working. Like, I got time. I'll come down from Italy or New York, wherever he is.
He's however he's bopping around. We appreciate it. Like he comes in and he's, again, like kind of like Peter in a way. He's so earnest. Like, even though like I'm something of a scientist myself, all that stuff. Yeah, he's like so excited to see Peter. And then when we get
such a like businessman too, being like, I'm a science guy. I'm just like you. Like, he just like goes around like just schmoozing whoever he has to schmooze like in the moment. But like with Peter, he is actually very like earnest. Like,
yeah, and I think with Goblin as a character, I think you get kind of this best of both worlds situation where like he gets to play the like, there's that whole like, in order to create a compelling villain, you have to understand them or side with them and stuff like that. And when he's Norman, despite all of Norman's obviously multitude of faults and stuff and issues, he gets to play the more like earnest, like, all the like, the first back to formula moment when the doctor kind of explains that he's like, I think this is a total mess. We need to start over from scratch.
Yeah.
He feels
and then helps him do it anyway.
That's true. And then does help him do it anyway. But he feels like Defoe reads like very scorned. He's like, back to formula. Like, he's like, why are you doing this right now?
We talked about this.
Yeah. He's so like authentic, which I think is so interesting. And then when he gets to play the Goblin, he gets to go full, playing to the back of the house, really leaning into it. And that is such an excellent performance in its own right.
Did you see the story about his teeth in the movie?
No.
So when he's regular Norman, not Goblin, he's actually wearing like he's got like little denture veneer things to make his teeth like more straight, like more like car salesman-y.
Sure.
And then when he's the Goblin, it's just regular Defoe, like imperfect teeth, which his teeth aren't even like that like messed up or anything, but they're noticeably not like as straight.
But
so it's like that's like part of like the thing. And then it's like the only time he has his like normal teeth as like regular Norman is when he's doing that like mirror monologue. Not to get too ahead, but that movie, like that's like where's this man's Oscar? Like just for that scene alone, like
there are so many performances throughout this series, and Defoe is just one of many where it's like they're being recognized by fans and critics and just general audiences and stuff like that. But it's like Defoe is so iconic in this role, and Maguire, I think, there was always that like discussion of who's the best Spider-Man. Is it Andrew? Is it Tom? Who is it? Like, they all occupy their films, I think, as perfect as you could want them to.
They're very like coded to the world that they're in those movies. So it's like there is a compelling argument for all of them being the best Spider-Man, and it's always really interesting to hear like who everyone like is like, no, it's this one, oh, it's this because of the origin and all that. But it's like, just in terms of performances, like they're all so good for different reasons. Like another like perk of like No Way Home was like seeing them all together.
Yes,
like,
and bounce off their energies. And I think with like kind of going from even like the skills of the talent in front of the camera, like the skills of the talent behind the camera, Raimi, I think, is like the first horror filmmaker I can think of that tackled a superhero movie. Because we've done that now, like David Sandberg, James Wan, John Watts, like all this other stuff that have done, specific genre stuff. And Raimi is the Evil Dead guy.
He's the Evil Dead guy.
And having him do Spider-Man, I think
he's like, we got this house full of mold, and I have a dream in a car.
Yeah, like
and my best friend with a killer chin.
Oh God, Bruce Campbell. We'll get into Bruce.
We'll get into Bruce Campbell. We could do a whole. We just do like a separate episode on just
the King.
Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell, the king of the con.
Oh, 100% king of the con. I want to meet Bruce Campbell so bad.
You say Bruce Campbell or meet Bruce Campbell?
Well, I guess both.
I mean, both are fair.
But I would love to also be Bruce Campbell if I had to do a Freaky Friday situation.
True.
But I think, like in this origin of the Goblin, right? And I think even with Peter, like, there is
scary
a bit of
sequences for both of them, like transforming. There's like skeletons flying around for Toby. Like,
he's
like I don't feel good, and there's just like skeleton, like skull, and you're like, why is this? Why did he do that?
Yeah, and also I think like the camp of horror, that innate kind of camp, it obviously as we've seen with Raimi, but also with all these other directors, like it fits in so well to this kind of genre, and especially in Norman's beginning. I think it goes with all the other villains. They get so, like, not only is it fun, just camera work, all that other stuff, like we're making interesting choices, but it really defines Goblin and Doc Ock and whoever as like very legitimately threatening.
Very.
Like they are genuinely scary. And I remember being a kid, and even now I'm still like, this is pretty, like when he grabs Dr. Strom and like throws him through and all this other stuff, like it is,
and he does that great like he's like when he's like it's like cinema, like
one of the unfortunate, I think, crimes that this movie makes is covering Defoe's face when
I know,
he is Goblin. I love the design of the mask. I think it's so well designed, but as we get later into the movie, there are scenes where I'm like, I just wish we could see him doing his work, especially because Spider-Man is fully covered. You know what I mean? And that is a part of the character that should be held as intact as possible.
Yeah.
But like in that opening sequence, him becoming like it's so clear what a wrong take this has turned, or like, you know, how badly this has now gotten.
Yeah.
And even the morning after, right, moving into after the origins of all these guys, like Peter, you know, wakes up and he's all, you know, buff and, you know, big change and all that stuff, and Defoe is like passed out on the ground.
I know, he's like in a stupor.
Yeah, he's like hung over, and he gets, you know, nudged by Harry, and he's like so visibly shaken.
Yeah, he's
and
like really, he looks upset. Like he looks like he's been violated, like almost.
It's like that whole like last night I was like all like
yeah.
It's so it's just so effective.
It's really effective.
But I think going into I left a note that like we're at the point that we have now both of their origins. We're less than 20 minutes into the movie.
Literally, yeah.
Like we're not even.
And he's iced a dude. Like
like Strom is dead. Peter and Norman both have their powers.
Yeah.
We've established the relationships with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, with Harry, with MJ, all this other stuff. Like the efficiency of this movie is so
good. It's
strong.
And like at the same time, it takes its time with him like learning his powers. Like he doesn't just like, oh, I guess I'm Spider-Man now. You know, I can just do this. Like
100%.
It's like no, it's like, oh, I'm like really strong and I feel good and I feel like more athletic. And then it's like I'm sticking to things.
Yeah.
And then like even when he's in the alleyway and you see like the like hair growing out, such a great shot too of the like the like, I don't know what those are called, but
sticky bits.
Yes, sticky bits.
His little sticky bits, right? That's what they are. It's what he does.
They're bits and they're sticky.
Yeah, there's like little bits on his fingers.
There's no second joke in there anywhere.
No, and I'm not just realizing that just now. But I think like a testament to what you're saying is, again, it's like because we've kind of been able to so efficiently get all the intricacies of the relationships out of the way, like the pieces are in place, and now Raimi and all of them can just play and have a lot of fun with. I mean, there's like a couple different this power. I've got, it's the webbing, it's the sticky bit, it's you know, it's all that stuff, and we get to see, even to the point of like maybe the most impressive shot that I've ever seen in any movie is Peter catching that tray.
Yeah, when I found out that that's all like actually happening, like like the tray's like glued to his hand, but like he still had to like catch everything.
Never ceases to impress me.
And like, do you know how many takes it was?
It was like 120 or something.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was like 33, which I thought like that's low if it's that, which it probably isn't. It's probably like 133.
It was like, I know that it was a lot, and like to see him do all of, like to see it all, like there's that when they push in and Kirsten Dunst and Toby, there's the little exchange of dialogue between the two of them.
Yeah.
I can just imagine like I've never done anything that complex, but being an actor and being like, oh my God, don't forget your line. Don't forget like,
yeah.
don't forget,
like, oh, we did it finally.
Yeah.
That interaction is actually really funny. Just him like not saying anything. And she's like, oh, you've got like really blue eyes. And he's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, okay, I'm going to go.
She like notices his eyes, and then she's like, all right, end of our
I'm
conversation.
aware I have this effect on people, but you know, hey, I'm gonna go over here now. Bye. Like, it's so gentle. Like, but like
and then we go, obviously it's that moment where he's like, my reflexes, I've never seen anything happen like this before. Obviously we get the glasses a little bit earlier, and then we get the great bit with the fork.
Such a great moment.
And I know that there's like a lot of conversation about the
apparently part of those were reshoots, because they had like the actual web shooters for a moment.
That's what I was gonna say, is like, I know the organic webbing is like a late addition, and there's a lot of back and forth as to like what's better. And I feel like in this case, like I personally like prefer the organic or the mechanical webbing.
Yeah, I prefer it. I like, because there's always that like added drama of like running out of web, but like with him like just it comes from his body. It's just like, you don't have to worry about that, I guess.
Well, again, I also think it's that interesting of like a like this discovery of all of his powers is such a fun thing to play. And like, you know, obviously it leans into Flash, you know, pissing Flash off so that they get in their fight.
Film debut of Joe Manganiello.
Is it his debut?
It's his big screen debut, I guess.
Oh, I
don't know if he did any TV, but it's like his first like movie.
He's so fun.
He's good.
Like he, again, like all these people, and there are a ton of other actors too, like like name actors that are in like day player roles, like little small bits and stuff like that. And Joe Manganiello as Flash Thompson is like such a fun.
The ensemble like is stacked with just incredible character actors, just
100%
littered throughout the background.
Yeah, and like obviously like he eats up every scene. Like I wouldn't want to fight me neither. All that stuff. Like
his father will sue your father.
Then the big leather jacket. Like he's such a perfect like
come on, check out my new birthday present. Like
yeah, he's such a good like I'm sure he's a very, very nice man, but he's like so perfect as the like high school bully that just wants nothing more than just pick on Peter Parker.
It's just like, this gives me joy. This is why I wake up.
And
why we do what we do. Like
when Peter discovers the webbing and then he hits Flash, I think it's in the cafeteria, that moment where he's like, Parker? Like that whole like
he's like actually confused. He's like, is he fighting back?
He's like, why?
Threatening the established order of the food chain? Like dude really threatened by that.
And then he decides, he's like, all right, I guess I have to go kick his ass.
Like it's like Flats and SpongeBob. He's like, I'm gonna kick your butt.
He is like Flats and SpongeBob. You're 100% right. But yeah, it's like all that stuff. I think the organic webbing, I think I prefer it in this series because just the like, what would it be like to if you woke up after a night of the flu basically and like found out you had superpowers.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that you were like the coolest superhero on the planet.
Yeah, like I've got abs and I had LASIK apparently.
Yeah.
Like spider bites you just sleep that shit off.
Yeah, he's like, I'm chilling. Especially because like it is, like you said, it's great. That bite is huge.
It is huge.
It's like
and it just gets bigger
ball.
like as the movie's like progressing, and then it's just like gone the next day.
But like, and then we move into like again, it's like he gets the spider bite and we just so quickly knock down the pins of all of his abilities. Like we get the strength, we get, he doesn't need his eyes anymore.
Yeah.
And then we get the small bit of him sticking to stuff when he goes back to the bus, he tears the thing off.
Yeah.
We get his reflexes, we get the webbing, and then we get the spider sense. And I think there's like, it's such a fun way to visualize it as it's more of just like it, like
some great work from Bill Pope, the cinematographer of the movie. Like,
I know. I think Pope doesn't come until 2. I think this is
really,
this is Dom Burgess is his name.
Oh, I know that name,
and I think he does a really, really good job.
No, he's doing amazing. All my notes were like Bill Pope, and then I was like, oh, if he's only 2.
He
should have done better research before he started this one.
I when I was watching 2, and we'll get into that in the next episode, but Pope, I think, brings something even more that we'll talk about later. But like photographing spider sense as kind of this like general knowing is kind of what I really like about it. Like
omnisense.
Yeah, like it's not like immediately what's danger. Like, not to say that he isn't recognizing that, right? But it's like this like 360 view of your surroundings. Yeah, and going from the spitball and then the fly and all that stuff, and then slowly the pan to Flash's like fist as he's coming,
comical like fist coming at the thing.
Like it's again, like it's such a clear like, okay, I understand. Like we don't have to. They do it a couple times in the rest of the series and stuff, but like we do that one sweeping shot.
Yeah, the way they establish that as like a rule, the sound design, like it's really, really well done.
Yes.
I looked it up. It is Don Burgess. He teams up frequently with Robert Zemeckis. He did Forrest Gump.
Okay.
And most recently, 2024's Here.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's him. He also did like Conjuring 2 and like a bunch. Like his filmography's stacked. I think I saw Castaway's also on there. But yeah, another cinematographer like legend.
Just
like
stacked resume.
Just a stacked resume.
Good on him.
Cafeteria.
Yeah, we go from the cafeteria.
Beats up Flash,
and then
goes in the alleyway, has this iconic woo like moment.
What I love about that score in that moment is like having, because obviously it's like post the fight where he gets that like fuel of like adrenaline, and then everyone calls him a freak.
Yeah,
and then he goes off to this alleyway, and the score, the way it's played of like kind of eerie, like you don't know like whether he's afraid or not. Like there is this like kind of more dramatic sting, and then we see the little prickly bits on his fingers.
Yeah,
and the whump 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 as we're like building to
really like dun 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 dun, like
it's like this moment. It's like you're hearing Peter's mind
Yeah, it's like you hear him having a light bulb moment, like
yeah, because then that woo is like the full release of someone being like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
I'm Spider-Man," right?
I'm the human spider.
That's right. Excuse me, the human.
We're not there yet. You're getting ahead of it a little bit.
That's right. That's right. I'm getting excited, but you know it's eerie, but it's like curiosity.
Yeah,
like each little wump is like testing out the,
like he's really testing it.
Am I gonna wake up? Like there's kind of this whole little vibe.
Yeah, when does the dream end kind of thing. This movie's like incredible to me because like so many, like every scene is iconic. Like I know we probably got to start like moving a little faster on the plot here, but like it's like hard because like every beat of this movie is so like good that it's like worth like spending like time with on.
No, I agree. Well, I think, you know, going from this whole discovery of his powers, what I love is that the discovery, obviously it's all fun after that when he's woohooing his way across New York City rooftops. And then when we cut to the next scene, like he's not Spider-Man yet, but the responsibility and the consequences, more specifically, of being Spider-Man have already taken place. Because when he leaves, you know, Ben is talking about, oh, we're going to paint the kitchen, blah, 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 I'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, I have a note about that real quick.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I know just so we got to like move through a little bit, but I do want to take a second. When he calls him Michelangelo, when I was 7, I did not know that was a painter, sculptor. So I was like, why is he referencing the Ninja Turtles?
He's just a big...
I'm like, are they going to eat pizza while they paint?
I mean, hey.
These were the thoughts little Dave was having like in 2002.
They all pretend to be a different Ninja Turtle
like,
as they're painting.
Why is he calling him a Ninja Turtle? And my parents were like, come again?
That's fantastic. But like after, like once he's back, like they've already, and he calls him Michelangelo again, like the kitchen's already painted. Like he's missed that time with his aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that I've not picked up on until rewatching it, that I'm like, oh, he's already losing track.
Yeah, he's already losing them.
Of Peter.
And it's like all going to come to a head like very quickly.
Yeah, like there's no
after
costume.
The wrestling sequence. Like
he's not considered anything. He's just already these powers, the responsibility of them is affecting his life.
Yeah.
Obviously, that does lead him to getting to have his first real conversation with MJ.
Yes, which is a great scene.
Great scene.
Like there's the line where she's like, "You're taller than you look," and he's like, "I hunch," and like the kid, like they're like so like into each other in that moment, and the way he's like, "I hunch," I was just like, that is some like classic, like something like from like a Cary Grant movie or something, like Jimmy Stewart. I could hear saying something like that, like really good. Like
there's even something that I love about the scene too is like, and I think like Kirsten Dunst is so good. She's so good. And she's so good as MJ. I think sometimes we kind of, the character is kind of subject to just unfortunately kind of becoming like the thing Spider-Man has to save. Yeah. Which really kind of...
Yeah, it's like, unfortunately, just because of everything, like her character kind of doesn't really have a lot to do.
No, and it gets to that point where, again, we'll get this later down the road, but in 3 where it's like, she's kidnapped again. Like, we're not doing anything with this character.
The writing for her in the first movie, though, is like the strongest for her.
Sure, I agree.
I think by 2, she really is just an object.
And I think
and it's like one of the weaker parts of that. But
my favorite thing about this scene is this moment where, and something that, you know, is really exciting is her first connection with Peter, and then Peter's the first person that's ever like seen her, like properly seen her. There's the moment
like that the way her father sees her, or the way Flash sees her, or even the way like Harry looks at her, like all very different.
I think everybody's MJ, like when it comes to Harry or her, you know, her dad or whoever it is, like everyone seems like is trying to get something from MJ. And Peter is
men too.
That is 100% true. And Peter is the first one that's like actually, when she says she wants to act, which I'm sure you've had that conversation with people before, but like that, like trepidatious, like, I don't want to say this because I've been, you know, the way that it feels that she's playing is like, I've been mocked about this before.
I know. Like even later when she's like, I'm like ashamed of being a waitress. Yeah. It's like, honey, you're like paying rent in the big city. And you have an audition. Like you're doing fine.
And that moment where he's like, that's a great idea. Yeah. You see that light go off of like, this is
he's like, that's not stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in that. You should do that.
And I think maybe jumping forward, I think to a moment that I really love is when I was talking to Laura about this after watching this movie too, that when they're at the funeral for Norman, she says that when she's up there and, she was worried that
she was Spider-Man 2002.
That's true. Spoilers for a movie that is
a movie that we've literally just been talking about.
We've just been talking about. Sorry, we're all these episodes are going to be spoiler filled. We're just gonna.
These are gonna spoiler. I think
no restraint.
Or about 50 minutes in.
That's
your spoiler warning.
But when she's talking about what she was thinking of, that she was surprised that she was thinking of him, I was like, yeah, because Peter is the first person that's ever, I think, treated her really like an individual and really listened to her dreams and her desires post high school. Obviously, this movie spends a little bit of time in high school, and then we kind of quickly jump out of that. But like, I think that's such a nice moment, especially if I think they're both obviously so wonderful together in their scenes.
Yeah. And especially like at the end when they're like, they have like the big kiss, like, let's like get to the ending. But then he's just like, I can be your friend. It's just like,
yeah, I think what's so fun about, or maybe fun's the wrong word, but something that I really enjoy about this movie
is
that
in the friend zone, super fun.
It's the best. Have you done it? I've had it a couple times.
And, not lately, thankfully. Relationships are great.
That's true. I'm very happy
about that kind of shit.
But when there's that whole moment where Goblin is asking him choose. You can either save MJ, you can save the kids.
The whole through line of the movie is like, choose, who are you going to be?
Yeah.
Like,
and I like that Spider-Man is able to do it. Spider-Man saves both of them. I think sometimes people could be like, well, he can't save both of them. He has to, it's like.
No, sorry, go ahead.
The point, I think, is that it's like Spider-Man can do it.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the consequence of that is the alter ego, is that Peter cannot.
Yeah, Peter cannot, but Spider-Man can. It's kind of like the Superman thing of like, that shouldn't be a thing, but that's like what makes him Superman, is that he can like turn back time now.
Totally.
And like save the day. Like he will save the day.
And not to say that like Spider-Man can't, as Spider-Man as himself cannot experience loss, but it's like, it will come back around.
Yeah.
Like you can have the moment of euphoria with the powers, but you're going to lose out on missing Aunt May and Uncle Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And you can save the kids and you can save MJ, but you don't get to be with her, or you don't believe that you can be with her, because what just happened to Aunt May, what happened to Mary Jane, all this other stuff.
The reveals of him like realizing that the Goblin like really knows who he is. Like every time there's like a reveal for that is like another like brilliant piece of like writing, is that those discoveries of like, one, when Norman discovers who Spider-Man is, and then like when he realizes that he's like, he knows who I am.
Yeah.
When he just like carpet bombs Queens.
Well, I think what's so fun about Goblin as a character is that like his journey is so petty. Like he's always looking, whoever has most recently pissed him off.
Yeah, he's just running around being like, Wah!
Yeah, he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm killing you next. Like it's kind of his thing. Like obviously it's the glider, the funding from the general and stuff like that is first what kind of gets him to push himself to taking the serum. And so he, the Goblin is his, I guess, catharsis, right? Is probably the way that Norman would view it. It's his way to deal with that, is that the Goblin goes out and deals with the other company. Mm-hmm. And then because of that, the board then sells Oscorp, and Norman sees that as, a slight against him, and he's upset about that, and he wants them to know how much he sacrificed and all that stuff. And
another iconic moment.
That's so good. Everything Willem Dafoe
the
does.
Look in his eye is like,
you can't do this to me. Like all that stuff is like,
yeah, the way he's like going through all the tactics of like, like let's bargain and like, it's just like, whoa, dude.
Like Goblin is not after like any big, like, I think what I like about this movie the most is maybe it's even like warmed up as the movie's gotten older, is that the scope of it is really small. Like Goblin is just a little petty goblin, for lack of a better term, that's running around killing
like
people.
Gremlin, Hobbit. If only there was a word for what he is.
I can't think of anything.
A man.
I'll get to it. That's true. But he just finding people that piss him off, even to the point where I don't know if this is intentional. Obviously Goblin says we have to attack his heart, but Aunt May bats his hand away at Thanksgiving.
Like, that's for the yams.
And he looks so angry at her. And that's next
such
person
a good
that he gets is her.
Moment of tension too, is like he smacks it and then he's like carving the knife, and you're just like, how does this scene end? Like,
yeah, and it's just like he is just trying to
he like
get the people that
like tastes like the yams or whatever they are.
Oh yeah,
like he's like, yeah, yeah. Like it's just like
work was murder. All that stuff is like
so many good jokes.
But I think that's so fun that Goblin is just kind of fucking around and finding out.
Yeah, really, he is.
Like he's just going after the people. Like the whole.
I guess I'll bomb a parade.
Yeah, he's like. I just want to note. I love how this movie is like kind of like classical, but then it's also hyper 2000.
It is. It's timeless, and at the same time not.
Yeah.
like in terms of like aesthetic, like it really is like painfully like 2000s.
Yeah.
And then also like just so could be anywhere at the same time. Like,
totally.
Especially I think more in the second one. The second one is less 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it's a little more.
But like the first one's like, here's a cellular ad. Like
yeah, this singular. There's like a Prudential. There's like a bunch of stuff. But like
Sprint's still a company. Like
that's right. Like I miss silly comic book stuff like little goblin grenades that can just atomize people.
Literally, like I'm like, you mean the military didn't want to invest in that?
The range of it is just like
not at all.
It's just like the people that it's supposedly like it's just whoever Goblin wants.
Yeah.
Like it has the range is only his will basically. Yeah. But I kind of miss stuff like that. Like we have like crazy stuff happening in comic book movies now, but there's something about that little goblin hand grenade that just completely disintegrates them to like Jason and the Argonauts
go like boom,
skeletons.
I'm a skeleton for 2 seconds and now I'm dust.
Yeah. But like he only is doing that because he's pissed off at these guys. Like he's just kind of this guy that's like got his feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And he thankfully took some super soldier serum that made him into a psychopath.
Yeah. Thank God he did that.
Yeah. Oh my God. If only he had.
I guess we should talk about the wrestling match, right?
Yeah.
I think we kind of jumped around there a little bit, but
I will say I don't know what the creative decision was to swap Crusher Creel as he is in the comics with Bonesaw McGraw. No disrespect to Crusher Creel.
Bonesaw is ready.
Bonesaw is iconic.
Bonesaw really is so another good. Like truly iconic moment of the movie is just Macho Man Randy Savage as Bonesaw.
And also another great character, Octavia Spencer, showing up there.
Octavia Spencer?
She has like 4 lines. And it's
crushes
it. Good moment.
I'm sure that reel, like as a working actress, that had to have been like a good scene to have in your reel in 2002. Like,
well, especially because obviously we're hiding Peter's costume because we get that great costume montage, which is clearly a build off from Darkman. There's a sequence just like that in Darkman. But like we see the amazing drawing of the Spider-Man costume. So we are hiding the joke that the suit looks like crap.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we're just holding on Octavia Spencer and you just watch her just run a clinic just for like 30 seconds.
Just like, oh, baby boy, no.
Yeah, the whole like, there's no featherweight division, all that stuff.
Like as a mother of 2, like I can't let you sign up for this.
You want to do this? And then we get into one of many Bruce Campbell cameos that will appear as the
amazing
announcer.
Choice, not to like do the pun, but like to have him name him the way he does. Like, such another great choice. It's like up there with like Captain America doing like the War Bond tour in the first Avenger. Like
totally. Because obviously, the Human Spider is such a great like Campbell's like, what? That sucks. Like just like a pure
this freaking guy
dismissive like no, we're not doing that. He's sorry.
Like, I'm trying to do a show here.
It's
you're about to tank my show.
Like to have Bruce Campbell be not just the guy that gets to say Spider-Man, specifically the Amazing Spider-Man for the first time in a movie, but also be the guy that comes up with the name.
Yeah, on the fly too, off the cuff.
God bless him. And we obviously then get the reveal that the suit looks like crap.
Yeah. They're just throwing things at him.
Yeah, they're like people are laughing at him.
They're like, is that Peter Parker? Let's throw things at him.
Yeah, it's like even behind the mask, everyone knows.
They can smell it. Like
we just need to just make
fun this man,
Peter Parker. I do love the suit is the joke is that it's crappy, but it is again like iconic, like in how it is designed. Like it's such a specific way, and it's so fun and Bonesaw and all this, like all these choices are so strong and specific.
Yeah. And then he wins the fight, and then he gets screwed over on the winnings. Yes. Which the logic of that, I'm like, that man sucks.
It's
like,
such a business thing to do.
3 minutes for $3K. Give some $200, but it's like, you did it in 2 minutes. It's not the full amount. So here's $200. Like, the math should be like at least $2K. Like,
the most realistic thing is someone is like a business owner taking advantage of some guy.
This is show business, baby. Like, you
yeah,
can't.
He's like, sorry, and like,
you could have broke that guy in half.
And again, like going into the efficiency, like, you know, the second Peter leaves that room, in walks Carradine.
Yeah, right in, the guy comes.
Something that I really love is how authentic his thanks is.
Yeah.
Like, he is a criminal. He's a bad dude. Obviously, like, maybe, you know, kills or maybe doesn't kill Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoilers. And
2 weeks from now, guys. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks. But, you know, the brief moment of, like, humanity. He's just like, thanks. Like,
he's like, cool, I needed this money really
so
bad.
Earnest.
Yeah, earnestly.
And I love in that scene, too, that, again, talking about the score, like, you know, not to say that kind of like Star Wars, it's like Williams brings so much to the Star Wars movies. Not to say that there's not good stuff there already. Like, the music as Peter's doing that, it's like, it is sinister. Like, it's that moment of Peter giving into his worst impulses.
Yeah.
And the music
where he makes the selfish choice.
Yeah, and the music being like, yeah, he's doing a bad thing. Like, obviously we're all aware that he should stop the burglar.
Yeah, but what a great piece of like writing. I mean, I know that's like from the comics, so I guess that would be Stan Lee, but like again, just such a great, like, oh, he made the selfish thing and the consequences are like devastating.
Absolutely.
And the repercussions of that are just like the through line of the whole series of like choosing to be Spider-Man, like the weight of that and everything.
Yeah, and I think what's so special, like you said, like, you know, this is a lot of this, obviously they're adapting from the comic, but there is this like X factor, this earnest aspect that I think Raimi and his team are bringing to it. Like, again, that like classical scope, like that I think is really what helps make this movie as classic as it is that it's so genuine. And like all the beats are so genuine, and there's not any, you know, there are obviously jokes and there's moments of levity, but like the world is so fantastical and the characters are so, you know, hyperbolic at times or whatever. But at no point does it feel like Raimi and all of them are like taking advantage of anything. It feels like they're being really genuine with the emotions. And I think that's where, like, you know, grounded gets thrown around a lot. And it's like, ultimately, whatever is like the like plot, like that can be as fantastical as you want it to be.
Yeah.
But this is such a great example of like, as long as the human elements are here, something that like I think James Gunn does really well.
Yeah, that's
like,
something he's very, very good at doing.
Like, as long as the emotions are grounded, like that's what you really want to make this the clock tick, I guess, as well as it could. Because then obviously the moment with Uncle Ben is heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and the editing in that scene is like pitch perfect.
Oh yeah,
like the way the score, and then it just cuts to his hand as it like pulls away. Like, it's just like, oh my god. And then like also like at the start of that scene where he like opens his eyes with like the tears, and then like the like relief of like it's like of seeing Peter is like Cliff Robinson, man, just like
he's so
crushing that scene. Like just came in and like absolutely bodied that moment.
Well, and like the choice to give him, you know, great power comes great responsibility, which is not originally from the comics. It's
it's like it's in it,
narrator.
but it's just like narration.
Stan
it's
Lee,
text.
presumably right?
Stan Lee is the one saying it, and to make it like an actual like life lesson.
Yeah.
In their like final conversation.
Yeah, and like again, it's like there's such a strong heart to the movie that fuels it, I think, through everything. And even to the point where, like, I will say, like, maybe my only real critique, I think, of the movie is that, like, the actors are so strong, you know, Robertson and Maguire and stuff like that. But I do feel like there's that moment before where, you know, he's like, I don't really know you anymore, Peter. I don't know what's going on with you. I feel like that is kind of brushed a little quickly.
Yeah, they kind of breeze through that a little bit.
It's one of the things that I actually think the Andrew Garfield movies really take advantage of.
Yeah, because they spend a little bit more time on that.
Yeah, we get a stronger sense of like Uncle Ben and Peter's relationship and them drifting apart. And obviously we're not talking about TASM right now, but like that's the only thing where I'm like, I think Robertson and Maguire and, you know, the dialogue does enough to like get us there.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a little bit of like, we do kind of miss Peter being selfish because we're so caught up in the discovery. And
and it's also like, no, good for him. Everyone hates him. Like, letting him punch the bully in the nose, like it feels good to get him back. And then it's like, oh, but that's not who you are, you know?
Yeah.
One of the best scenes in the movie, in addition to like just Uncle Ben like dying, but later when he's with Aunt May post graduation, there's like it's like a 2-minute one take, and it's just a sustained like 2 shot of them
on the bed,
yeah. And she's just like talking about how like proud he would be of him and everything. And it's just literally like, it's literally like the lead into like, I know you're going to do great things. He knew you're going to do great things. Dare I say amazing things. Like, and then she's like, anyway, I'm going to go to bed. I love you. And then she like leaves and the music's like bongos. Like, and it's like, let's become the hero now. Like, it's such like a good transition scene, but it's also like the fact that it's just like a 2-minute one take of just Tobey Maguire like crying.
Yeah, well,
in a big blockbuster like this, that's like arguably we're just here to sell toys, right? Like they were like allowed that like scene. Like I feel like that would have been on the cutting room floor.
Sure.
Like in like a current
that they'd be like, we know that they're sad.
Well, it's slowing down the plot, and we just like, well, we're just gonna get in the superhero scene. Like we know his uncle's dead. Like, you know, it's like they don't have to say that again, but they do anyway.
Yeah.
And it's such a good transition moment.
And I think, and then we transition into, we obviously go through the little drawing. And we do a choice that Raimi makes that I love: the swinging camera through the streets of New York.
That's like a special camera. I thought all of that, but that's like a real camera that is like being like towed around through New York, just like dropping,
throwing it.
It's literally like a camera that you can just like release, and it drops 60 feet, and then can like be shot like up like 90 feet, like the other direction. Like it literally is like, it just moves like Spiderman.
Yeah, and it is that like. You know, obviously we get moments of being on the street and seeing Spider, like being from the perspective of the people.
Yeah, just like the New York is a character in this movie too. Like
yes,
all the New Yorkers, such good stuff.
Well, I think that's why, like going again, like right after this, we just keep rattling these great moments off. Of we get the like documentary style of all, you know, he stinks and I don't like it, like all that stuff.
Guy with 6 hands.
Yeah, he's got ropes come out of his hand. Like we're just gonna be starting to do.
I saw him in Central Park. I think he was building a nest.
Yeah, like all that stuff. It's like the style of just like literally it being a documentary. I could see someone criticizing it being like that kind of breaks the style of the movie. Yeah. But I think the New Yorkers, and again, it may be a cliche, they are a big part of this movie. They're kind of part of that beating heart.
Yeah.
We get the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us scene.
Yeah.
Like focusing on the people is something that I feel like we've lost, and Raimi is so on the pulse about it that, like, I don't really care that the documentary stuff feels maybe less outside of what the visual language is. I think
you could like make the argument that like most of the movie is through Peter Parker's like perspective, and he has like a weird 60s like sensibility of like, or like maybe like 50s, I guess, but that like classic like American ideal like kind of thing. But then like it like switches to like New York's perspective, which is like what's going on. There's like a man flying through the air.
Yeah.
He's an acrobat. He's an alien. He don't know. He
stinks, and I don't like him. It's just, I just gotta be honest. You know?
Swings like a spider, feels like a bug.
The amount of times.
Can we get the rights to that? Oh, what does our producer say?
He gave a thumbs down.
He gave a thumbs down.
That's all right. That's all right.
I think in Gladiator that means we live another day, though, right?
Well, then I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Then I've accepted it.
Yeah.
But I like. And then, which this is so funny that I forgot he comes in this late in the game. After all the documentary stuff, we get to see a Mr. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. Like an iconic, just like out of the gate, like swinging, like this movie's like a competition of like character actors, just like competing to be the most iconic.
Yeah.
And then he just comes in like a wrecking ball, just Miley Cyrus is through every scene like so hard.
He just rattles off these one-liners, and again, like the kind of the tone of this movie, I feel like people, if we were trying to be like super grounded, they'd like try to adjust.
Some food got poisoned.
Yeah, I'm a little nauseous. Yeah, like he's just. Like
shout out Ted Raimi.
Ted Raimi,
another great like
Bill Nunn, Elizabeth Banks, the whole Bugle team.
The whole Bugle team, amazing. Like
it is one of those like I would, and something that they do is they just like give them more to do in the subsequent movies, which I appreciate because they steal the show.
They really do. Every time they come in, they just like it's like watching like a really perfectly played game of football, or you're just like everyone is like passing that ball and like blocking like. It's so good.
It's like the Octavia Spencer scene where like Toby, his job in that scene is to just like be a trampoline, like just to like let that stuff bounce.
A witness.
Yeah, just to bear witness to J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And he's like,
your wife lost your checkbook thanks to the great news.
All that,
so good.
Like he's so natural. Like Jameson is such an exaggerated character, but he feels like such a real guy.
He does.
Even to the point where, you know, obviously later Goblin comes into the Daily Bugle. You know, there's that whole moment where he's talking, you know, in print it's libel and all that stuff, and he's being, you know, God's perfect asshole, like to Peter. But then when Goblin actually threatens him, I think this is what Jameson is an asshole, but he's not. Like when he gets pressured to give away Parker's name, he doesn't.
Yeah, I have a note about that. And such a good moment. Like he's literally in a fraction of a second, he's like, "Yeah, get out of here. I hate you." Like, and it was like I don't care about you. You're gum on my shoe. I scrape you off on the sidewalk. And then like 60 seconds later, he's like protecting him.
Yeah, and like that I think it's like it's those little moments like that take a character that I think maybe just through the context of this movie, that Jameson could be seen as like just like kind of like one-dimensional jokes. Yeah. And you throw that little line in there, and all of a sudden there's this whole, you know, there's this much deeper part of him, of the respect that he has for his team and wanting to take care of this kid, you know, even though he's definitely trying to pay him as little as humanly possible. He's going to send him meat, you know, Christmas meat and all that stuff. Like it's again, New Yorkers and New York being such an integral part of this that like, even if he hates Spider-Man, even if he wants to have a problem with Peter Parker, like he's not gonna, you know, turn heel. He's not gonna like give him up and give him away. There is some genuine character, you know, inside of Jameson.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. It's because it is funny. It's like one moment he's like, "Get out of here, I hate you." 60 seconds later, being like, "I don't know who he is," protecting him, and then 60 seconds later, it's like, Spider-Man, I knew you were in on this. Like, just really like roller coastering through like all of the emotions.
100%. And it's, you know, kind of, I guess, jumping into that scene with them on the rooftop, right when he gives himself away. And he doesn't. He gives him. Yeah. And then, you know, Peter shows up. Also, didn't notice they're snakes.
Really?
I think they're snakes or something. Whatever his little sprayer.
Oh my god, that's so fun.
They look, at least to me, I think they look like snakes. But
I want a pair. Producer Dish, do we have that in the budget?
I'm on it.
He's on it.
We got that in the budget. That's good.
I think this scene between Goblin and Spider-Man when they're in their full suits. This is like the one that I kind of struggle with a little bit.
The blocking's a little wonky.
Especially
when he's like sitting there like.
Yeah, well, also, Toby's just like, he looks like.
You think that's Toby in the scene, like laying there? Or do you think that's a stunt double?
I want to say yes, just because it is a character-to-character moment. Obviously,
I'd imagine he would have been there on the day, but like.
Yeah, I guess there's no way of knowing, but like, unless we got Raimi here, get Raimi on the podcast. We're gonna start that early.
Yeah. We'll start having guests. We'll do a redux on this one.
But I think kind of going back to kind of what I was saying earlier, like this is really where the Goblin mask falls a little flat for me. Yeah. To the point where they have to like open the eyes up.
Let's have to like open up or whatever.
See his mouth on the inside because they're like, well, we need some kind of expression, but 97.8% of his face is still covered.
Yeah. I feel like Dafoe though gives like he has such like good vocal.
Agreed.
Like choices like throughout though. I'm like, I feel like even if they didn't lift like for his eyes, like I feel like I would have been invested in that, but it would just be like hard watching like two like no faces like emoting.
Especially because obviously, you know, Spidey at that point is, you know, temporarily paralyzed, but they use a nice little bit of what I'm assuming is ADR. It's not on Goblin's face. And
they're like, we actually didn't write this scene, so
it's like not on Goblin. And he's just like, you've been paralyzed temporarily, like all that stuff. But this is the one scene that I like in concept, but I just feel like I just lose them in it. You know what I mean? But I do think all the like what we're discussing, I think
the intention
really
of the scene is still really bold. Because like the idea, like I don't think any other superhero movie really has that moment of like, hey, like let's team up though. Yeah. Like why not team up? Like let's talk about this before we just go to the part where we try to kill each other. Like and it goes like that we could do it again and again and again until we're both dead. Like it's like literally like at Batman and Joker. Like
well, it's also like again, talking about Goblin kind of being this like petty little guy that's just killing people that piss him off. Like he is like being like, he's oddly extending an olive branch. He's like, you really haven't pissed me off in a way that like.
He's like, I think you're dope.
I do think it's interesting that Goblin does like the Darth Vader thing, basically. That he's like, let's work together.
Yeah, join me and together we'll.
Yeah, and I do think that the next scene, because he's like, they do the hero fall, die trying.
Yeah.
And it's like 30 seconds later, Peter looks at the newspaper that talks about, Spider-Man being a menace. And then we play that audio again.
Like it didn't just happen.
Yeah, it was like it just happened.
They do a similar thing earlier. It's after when he gets the guy that killed Uncle Ben, right? Or allegedly.
Yes.
And it's like you see like him like silhouetted in shadow. You don't see his face, but you can see the like frosted tips. in the dark, he's like glowing. And then it's like the like helicopter light, and then it's like it flashes to what is ostensibly actually 5 minutes ago, as if Peter like really like had to think about like, how do I know you?
Yeah.
The guy from the wrestling match. Like
no, on it. And it's stuff, especially because
it's really hammy, but like also like really well done, but so funny. Like in context, like
it's not like it's not like a criticism that like hangs in my head for too long.
No,
but it is like, the movie's like a pretty tight 2 hours. Like we just,
I think it's like 2:02 or 2:01 or something like that.
And like,
and a lot happens. I'm like, what a good use of time.
And it is like,
I just kept checking like the timeline to see like where we were at when like key events were happening, and I was like, we're at the 40-minute mark, and like so much movie has happened. Like,
and it's just that thing of like, we've already discussed this like literally 20 seconds ago, but I'm okay with it, especially because it's such a fun. That is such a part of Spider-Man is his, the relationship that he has again with New York and with the city and with people.
There's moments though where like it's almost like you can hear like the Stan Lee like the words of the Goblin echoed in Peter's ear. Like you could kind of hear that like sort of like meta narration like a comic book would have like on some of those flashbacks. Like the kid could just flip back 3 pages and see the context. But
and especially because we get to that point where we obviously get to the building fire. Spider-Man shows up and he interacts with the police. He interacts with the firefighters. And, there's the, I'm going to be here when you get back. Like, he's like, the cop recognizing
you're the only chief.
Yeah. And he's like, you're the only person clearly that can save the baby that's up there. Fine, go, but I'm going to be here. And when he says, I'm not coming back, chief, the cop is just kind of like,
you got me.
Yeah. All right. That's fine.
I yield.
That does not affect my decision in any way. And I love that we hold on the actress who's playing the mother. Like that whole
really good. The tension of the like, did he save the baby or not? Like,
yeah. And again, seeing like how the city is reacting to him. Again, the movie's so grounded in its scope, and there's so many sequences of Spider-Man saving people.
Yeah.
And it's like the Chris Reeve Superman kind of a thing where we, we're not reminding the audience, but we're just displaying
doing the thing,
That's ultimately what he's there for. He's friendly neighborhood, right? So
I don't know if you have this, but every time I'm watching that movie again, this happened last year when we were in the theaters too. Mm-hmm. Every time I'm watching Spider-Man and it gets to the apartment fire or whatever.
Yeah.
He goes in and saves the baby. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then he jumps out and then they hear the scream and he goes back in. I always forget, like I'm always like forgetting that the Goblin's going to do a jump scare. And he's gotten for literally 20 years. I have fallen for this, and I just curious if you have a similar thing of like kind of forgetting that it's about to be like a fight with Goblin, or you were like hyper aware. Is this like a me thing?
I'm
fully prepared to be like
no.
Like I shouldn't be falling for this. It's like I don't know, like Patrick Star like walking into a wall or something, and be like, oh.
I am hyper aware of it, but only because I think I have residual effects of it scaring the absolute crap out of me.
I literally was like,
every time. Like, I am not currently, and for a long time, afraid of that jump scare, but I tense up because I know that it's coming, and I will never forget. It's how effective it is. I'll never forget being a kid and like, looking away, because it freaked the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And he's like, again, like he's offered up his olive branch.
Yeah.
And Spidey's turned it down. He's like, all right, so I'm gonna kill you. Fine. It's again like that.
Yeah, he's like, okay, the battle is on, gloves are off. And then it's like everything that happens next is just an attack. Because the next sequence is the like reveal that Norman figures it out.
Yeah, at the Thanksgiving dinner.
Where the Norman Rockwell painting thing. We do that. There's the conversation. Poor Poor MJ, just having to hear that. What an insulting thing to hear down the hallway.
And also for Harry to then try to defend his father.
I know.
I was a little before that. I love the almost reveal of Norman discovering Peter.
Oh
right?
yeah,
he swings in, and the fact that the bike
he smells the blood.
Yeah, he smells the blood. He like looks over the the patio or the banister or whatever. Yeah. And then, Peter comes back. He apparently had to beat an old woman with a stick to get those cranberries.
Yeah, he did.
And the bike messenger thing, again, a testament to Defoe, that look on his face of like he has the moment in the bedroom, and then he's like, it's probably nothing. Peter's just some dumb kid, like whatever. And then he sees the cut, and it's that like, that click in his head.
Yeah.
And
the little squint he gives when he's like, something fishy happening. Like it's straight up Mr. Krabs when like the anchovies show up in like the pilot of SpongeBob. Like,
well, it's also like he's like Defoe or Norman is clearly starting to kind of lose it a little bit because we do the
when he's like in the elevator, like
exactly. Whoa. He's like sweating and like he's kind of like in between,
coming down from like a bender.
Yeah, he's like in between Goblin and Norman, and then he comes in, and the second he learns that Peter is Spider-Man, and he says that something has come up and he has to leave, he basically becomes the Goblin again.
Yeah.
He even like falls into the voice a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Broomer fast.
Yeah. And MJ is rightfully super pissed off.
Shout out to her for just like walking out. Like she didn't take any of that. Like,
yeah.
I love that.
I also, a little note that I just love Harry so self-conscious about Spider-Man. When he said like that,
what's he like?
I'm going to buy you something. He's just so desperate. He doesn't really have anything. Like Harry is such he
really didn't. Everything she kind of liked that he was doing was actually what Peter was doing.
Well, so because he's not going into this relationship with earnest intentions. There's that moment at the graduation where,
it's like for him, it's like a weird consolation of, I can't get my father's love.
It also feels like, at least it felt like almost he's trying to go against Peter in that there's the moment where, it's not the first time I've been proven wrong, that he says to Harry when they graduate, and he gives this kind of like half joke, kind of mean remark to Harry, and he turns to Peter and he literally puts his hand on his shoulder and he's like, I'm so proud of you, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And Harry looks and sees Flash breaking up with MJ.
Yeah.
And there's that moment where it seems like he's doing the math in his head that like, all right, well, I'm going to go date MJ now because Harry, he's like, my father,
I see a moment.
Yeah. He's like, Peter is stealing my father from me. It's kind of how it feels.
And like, well, I mean, I do have a crush on her too. Like,
might as well.
This might be my thing. Like,
and he spends the whole relationship, like just kind of being a dumbass,
just struggling to not have anything in common with her.
Yeah. Like they're clearly not a match.
Which is like also like a great like writing angle on the whole thing of like kind of the only way he got in was doing what Peter did.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like he just like that's like just so telling of like why like Peter works better for her as like a partner. Like,
well, also she's embarrassed to tell Harry that she's working at a restaurant, and Peter is very aware of, hey, that's part of what what I mean. He's in full support of her.
He's so encouraging. Like,
and that
like he's like straight up like a Nancy Myers movie, just like with like sweatpants, like, oh, I made you a grilled cheese, babe. Like,
you say Nancy Myers, I get excited. I love Nancy Myers.
We haven't name dropped a whole lot of other things on this.
That's true.
Far.
Yeah, just to put for the record, big Nancy Myers appreciator.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that moment where it's clearly the end of their relationship, even if I don't know if that is officially when they break up, but like that is clearly the moment where
feels
like this
is
over.
It feels like we never get like a definitive like breakup sequence from them, but I feel like that technically is the breakup.
Yeah, he says he would be lucky to be half of what he is what Harry says. And after Norman being so like sexist and dismissive about MJ, it's like, are you the biggest like idiot on the like what are you like? Like he's just. Harry sucks.
Harry does. It's like sucks. I kind of feel bad watching him, and at other times I'm just like, dude, get over yourself.
Yeah,
like, how rude.
He's so like petty.
He's so petty.
I mean, he's his dad. Like, he's his dad's son. And
the father-son like themes of this movie are so powerful.
Well, I think going into like the moments of obviously like we talked about, he getting past them of Norman recognizing, he cares about Aunt May, cares about MJ, all this other stuff. There's the moment when he realizes that Peter loves MJ when Harry tells Norman that.
Yeah.
that Norman says he's going to rectify certain inequities. And it's like this scene where he's still really dismissive. It seems like he's probably in goblin mode.
Yeah.
I just realized I just said he's in goblin
mode. He's in sicko mode.
He's gone goblin mode. But it's like the first real connection that he shows Harry.
Yeah.
And it's right. That's the last
like, you're
conversation
finally
they have.
useful to me.
Yeah. Well, he's like, he admits to not being a good dad.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sorry that I wasn't the best father. And then he says, I'm going to rectify certain inequities, which to Harry probably is like, you're going to be a good dad again, which for the goblin, it's like, I'm going to go
He's like, no, I'm going to go kill your best friend. He stole your girl. Like,
well, I just love that, like, that moment that Harry
sees. How about revenge?
Yeah. He's like, what if we just like killed a bunch of people? And I love that that's the last moment that Harry talks with his dad. Because one, he's not even really talking to his dad.
Yeah, he's talking to someone else, but he thinks he's having like an earnest heart-to-heart with his father for the first time in like it's in either a long time or ever.
Yeah, he thinks the relationship is finally going to improve.
Yeah.
And, no wonder he blames Spider-Man so much is because he's lost an actual relationship with his dad.
Yeah.
But his dad sucks. Sorry, and he's a weird goblin killer.
He's a weird guy. Okay, I don't want to. I think we're kind of running a little long on time, but I still want to talk about the finale.
I will say, the movie's basically almost done at this point.
We basically are. Yeah,
there's like 20 minutes left.
He throws down with Aunt May in one of the most harrowing sequences. Yeah. If you believe in religion, like from her perspective, that is the most demented thing that could happen to you.
Yeah, literally, like Satan burst through the walls of her house.
Finish it. Yeah. Finish the prayer. Like.
But again, it's that like taunting thing of the goblin that can
Spider-Man come out to play.
I literally always quote it 100%. Like that,
such a great line.
That he's just like he's not looking to like cause some big scene, which I'm not opposed to like broader scope in superhero movies or any movie in particular. But like I just love that the final set piece is Goblin just being like, you have really. I'm up to here with you.
I'm up to here with your like idealistic BS. Like you're gonna have to choose. I'm literally gonna force you to like just to prove my point. And also because I'm a little stinker like that.
Which then also gets us to I think the best moment, my favorite moment in the movie is the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
I think it's great. Just before that, the shot though of like choose, and then it's like the mask, and you see MJ in one lens, and then the bus of kids.
This like perfect comic book kind of
such a great shot.
Page,
like I'm so here for that. That's like those kinds of shots we need more of.
Agreed.
In Hollywood right now.
Would you say that we need one more of them?
We need
at least one more
of those. At minimum, we need more of that.
Thank you for allowing me to shoehorn our title in.
I think that's gonna be the stinger, right? That's gonna be the ad.
Well, we'll have to see. I guess we'll have to see.
Follow us on TikTok, guys.
You were saying
links down below.
True.
Yeah, no, they go into the fight. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. New York rallies behind him. Like for the first time, New York has spent the whole movie picking on Peter, and now they're like helping him take down the baddie.
Yeah.
Like such a great like arc.
Well, it's
and
like
build.
It's like the New Yorkers throwing the stuff at Goblin, and then also the guys on the ship like helping, coming in for the assist.
Yeah.
And catching the I don't know what to call it. The like ferry.
Well, because it's like
not a ferry,
like a gondola.
Yeah, like a
some
gondola.
kind.
Well,
that might not even be the right word. Discuss amongst yourself in the comments. What is that thing?
To save the kids.
To save the kids.
They're there to save the kids, and like.
But the children love the books.
They do love. If there's one thing we know about the children, it's that they do in fact love the books. Going into the fight, like he is able to save them.
Yeah,
he's able to make it happen.
He does the impossible.
It's difficult, but he
does it.
But
it's possible, and he does it with help from New York, which is such a great like additional bonus.
And Goblin rightfully recognizes that the New Yorkers are helping Spidey so much that he's like,
my style. I gotta change the scenery a little bit.
I'm just gonna have to rocket him through a couple of brick walls.
A couple of brick walls at a church. Okay, that sequence where the Goblin is just.
Laying waste.
He's just demolishing Toby in that fucking scene. Like honestly, like get that dude in the octagon. Like he's doing some like Green Ranger level spinning through the sky takedowns.
Well, again, and I know it's action.
Like these are like Mortal Kombat takedowns.
Yeah.
Like
again, it's scary. It's really threatening.
Ferocious how much he is hitting him. Which also like I think a superhero, like the hero getting a beatdown.
Yeah.
We don't get enough of those. Like
so.
It's pretty infrequently. Like I feel like large in part the MCU is very like he's got a couple cuts on his face.
Sure.
And there's a couple movies where we do get some great beatdowns, like The Winter Soldier, No Way Home.
Sure.
Goblin comes back for that one.
That's true.
To lay
he
down
makes sure
smack.
to let people know how it's done. It's the John McClane effect.
Yeah,
it's what it is. I mean, Goblin even says it, like to see a hero suffer and fall and stuff like that. Like to see them go through that and then come out on top.
Yeah,
is what makes it so successful. And John McClane, it's like, he's walking through broken glass. Like
he's getting literally walk through fire kind of stuff.
Going through hell. It's the Jackie Chan working your way up to the top. Like all this other stuff. Like that is, and I guess maybe we, if you do it too much, then it becomes old hat, I guess. But like, I don't see it that way. Like I've heard people say that it's like, oh, that's always, the superhero, the hero's losing, and then in the final thing they change or whatever.
I will say, as someone who watched a lot of Power Rangers growing up,
heck yeah,
I sat through that morph every time.
Agree.
It does not get old to me.
No,
I do not care.
I'm 26 years old. It still rules.
I am like, no, beat the hell out of him.
Yeah,
make him bleed.
Well, I also again like we talked about, Peter's the Spider-Man mask and Goblin's mask kind of limiting emotion and stuff like that. But in doing this, we get the damaged Spidey look with the damaged mask.
I think the damage in the first movie is like the best the damage will ever look.
Totally.
I feel like when they do it in the second ones, there's something that doesn't work for me, even though it's a very similar thing. But the where the rips are and the way the mask, like here, it's like pitch perfect. Like
absolutely. And I think getting, like, Goblin's tearing through the webs and all this other stuff, you've spun your last web. Like, we are really showing that, like, Peter is, like, does not have many options left. Like, he really, it feels like the movie's about.
Also, do you think that trident thing he has, do you think that's a leftover from Aquaman? I
would love it.
From Volko?
From Volko?
Is that his name in Aquaman?
Yeah. He's like, let me get a time machine real quick.
It's a Defoe from Aquaman comes back to, he's like, you will need this.
Sam, what you don't understand is in 12 years, I'm going to have a spear. What if we used it?
Okay, I will say, not enough of that particular weapon that he has at the end.
Where did it come from? I don't care.
Where did it go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Absolutely. That is what it's called, actually, if you look at
the Cotton Eye Joe
prop list. Yeah.
When you open up the inventory in the game to equip it,
you have to you spend a little you spend $20 and you get the Cotton Eye Joe.
It's an add-on. It's a pay to play.
But I think all that stuff, and I love that Goblin, obviously he's using all of his muscle, and the second Peter starts to overpower him,
well, the fact that he's like, the minute he's like, I'm gonna gut your girlfriend, like I'm just gonna go for her and just make like it is painful spot, like that's like his like it's like he gets that like second win from like, you do not mess with that, and I love that.
Well, it's like
it's so hammy, but I'm like, no, like you don't mess with family, like
totally. Hey,
like Vin Diesel, if he would say anything,
lover here, like, I'm on board. Like, but I think that's such a, I don't know.
We will have to do Fast and the Furious because I've only seen Hobbs and Shaw.
I would love.
I'm going to confess on the podcast first episode that I've not seen any of the Fast and Furious movies.
Well, it's okay. We can do it, and I'll also tell my Fast and Furious audition story. Should be fun.
My god, that's right. I forgot about
one of my.
Did I help you with that audition?
You definitely helped. I did it in person, but
that's right.
You definitely helped with the. Yeah, you were there when I got the audition.
Yes,
at Wingstop. We'll get to that later at another episode. But I think when Spidey eventually starts to overpower him, I love that the Goblin's next tactic is to out himself, to like be like, I'm Norman, to like guilt trip him basically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. Like,
no,
it really doesn't work. Like, he's so, like, the way.
But yeah, the Peter.
Oh. Well, I think what's great about it too is it's so clearly not Norman.
Yeah, it's like a fake. It's the Goblin doing an impression of Norman.
Yeah,
like
all the like
impeccable.
Be a son to me now. All that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
but also like when he pulls the mask off and like Peter immediately is like Mr. Osborn.
Yeah,
like he goes back to like being a high school kid, like from the beginning of the movie. Like he like reverts for like a fraction of a second.
Well, especially the fact that like he's known, like Goblin has known that Peter's been Spider-Man for not too
at least a couple days.
Yeah, and Peter is just now figuring out.
He's got like 60 seconds with this information.
His like potential new mentor and his best friend's father and all this other stuff, and you know, obviously it's a very good choice that Peter doesn't intentionally kill the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
That it is accidental.
Yeah. Which like same thing with the mugger from the beginning. It's like kind of an accident that he dies, but like I said, it unfolds before him. It's like he doesn't feel good. Like, you know, like the revenge just is not his way, you know?
Yeah. Well, he's not even, he's like, obviously there's the whole, like, I'm your father, be a son to me now. And he says, I had a father. His name's Ben Parker. You add, you know, nice little full circle moment from him telling Ben that he's not his dad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
just again, the father-son like through line. He's like, be a son to me. And he's like, I had a father. And it's like, you go back to the beginning of that like car conversation right before his like last scene with Uncle Ben of like, you're not my dad. And then it's like later he's like, that was my dad. Like, it's such a good, like the maturity. Like I got I'm getting to that phase where I'm like, that's someone's baby. You know, like I'm getting those emotions these days.
Sure.
So, like,
totally.
Watching it, I'm like tearing up watching him like become like actualized. Like,
well, I love that, you know, like and again, about the kind of the father-son core of this whole movie is
good father-son core. That's
true.
That's the aesthetic of this movie.
Father-son core. It's giving cottage core. It's giving
it's giving Raimi New York core.
Absolutely, Raimi. Oh, dude, what I would give for Raimi New York.
What's the core? The car? It's
the Oldsmobile.
The Oldsmobile core. Is that what it is?
I'm into it. I agree with that.
Can we make that a thing?
I would love to make that a thing. I'm in full support of that. But
the term's gonna be in vogue, and they're gonna be like, it's the We Need One More podcast coined it.
But I love that, again, about the father-son dynamics, that, you know, he gets impaled by his own glider, and there's like that last moment where he's Norman, because he's not doing the super high pitch.
It's like the goblin actually dies the minute the glider strikes him.
Yeah, and that, you know, the last thing that Norman, who has not been a great father, has said is, don't tell Harry. Like, it's
he's like, he can't know.
Just don't tell him, please. And Peter respects that.
Yeah, it's like that weird thing of like, before he becomes the goblin, and like he is not like a great man by any stretch. He is very like sketchy. He's a classic businessman.
Sure.
Just doing whatever it takes. But there is like, he does genuinely love his son, and he just doesn't understand how to talk to him. And it's like kind of sad to watch like that dynamic of like, he does want to be a good father, but he just really is not equipped to do it.
No. And
as like a ruthless businessman, it's just not something he's good at.
Yeah. And I love that, like, that, you know, his failure in that, and then the potential, you know, bright spot of a better future for Harry, mixed with Norman wanting to hide the secret.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, it kind of in the vein of, do we need one more? Like, the way that we leave open, you know, I swear on my father's grave, Spiderman will pay.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a great, it's not
also,
like,
shout out to the turtleneck in that like
100%.
last scene, like
I love a good
looking like a
CW
Steve Jobs, like because he's like, this is like one thing I noticed in the second. We can get to that next week when we do two, but like.
Sure.
Like James Franco clearly he's got the Hollywood physique now in the second one, and he like bulks up in between movies, but he's like so like little guy in this first one.
Well, like this I swear
like,
on my father's like I swear on my father's grave, Spider-Man will pay is such a fun, like, it's the kind of like quote unquote setup that I think is effective, in that it's like we're not really teasing a sequel in the way that, like, even like in a movie that I love, but that we'll get to later, Spider-Man 2, like Spider-Man 2 maybe more directly teases a sequel in terms of Harry, but this one it's more just about the consequences, that it's like Peter will always carry this burden of what happened to Norman, and we'll never get to tell Harry about it, and Harry will hate Spider-Man despite knowing that it's not like it's
the mess that Peter finds himself at the end of this movie is great. I mean, just like from like a story perspective, because it's like, it feels like we're getting like a neat bow, but it's really not. Like,
no,
he's killed his best friend's father. His best friend hates him, and he doesn't get, like, he gets the girl, but he can't be with the girl.
It's a nice bow in the sense that it hammers home, like, Peter recognizes now the responsibility of being Spider-Man.
Yeah,
because she
with more clarity than he's ever had.
100%. Like, he, in mentioning kind of earlier of what MJ tells him when she was kind of almost about to die at the hands of the Green Goblin, like, he has that moment where he realizes, like, I can't let that happen to her or anybody ever again.
Yeah.
And he says, like, what, this is my fate, this is my curse, is the line. Like,
it's so cheesy, but I think it's kind of baller too. Like,
I agree. But like that's the point of the character.
Yeah, it's the whole like idea of the movie is like you will have to make a choice, and the whole movie is Peter Parker making the hard choice.
Yeah.
And like to like at the point of like and the detriment of his like social life, like and his happiness, like fate has chosen him. And you know, we can be that, you know, that's a through line of all the Spider-Man movies, not just the Raimi ones, but like specifically in this movie, the way David Koepp like navigates that concept is so well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's genuinely like I think it was definitely, I feel like we took it for granted when it came out. I think with like now that it's been like 22 years, it's like, no, this is like a masterpiece.
Especially because again, I love how small scope it is. Like I love
it's
how,
so like, and but it's still like big. There's big set pieces.
Totally,
He's gotta catch like a gondola and a girl, like on they're fighting on the bridge, but it's like this, it literally just boils down to like two guys having a fist fight each other. Like
and Goblin being so
not a foreign threat, but a businessman.
Yes, I think this movie. What I love the theme is that businessmen
pretending
are
to
evil,
not be evil,
are bad, and do constantly exploit people.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Spider-Man.
We're talking about Spider-Man.
We're talking about comic book characters. We're not talking about any other specific.
We're not talking about Lex Luthor, for the record.
Yeah,
we're talking about Norman Osborn.
Let's talk about Norman Osborn.
Let's talk about
and not insinuate any other people.
We're not this is not a political podcast.
Oh,
so
certainly
not. I don't
know
why anyone would think otherwise. This is a series of films about a series of podcasts.
Listen,
about a series
what we
of
know:
films.
dressed like a spider, looks like a bug.
Looks like a bug.
And frankly, if I'm gonna be, I don't mean to be controversial. We should all just give him one big hug.
Absolutely. He actually does need a big hug. Like, jokes aside.
He really does.
He had to look the woman he's loved since he was 6 years old in the face and say, I just want to be friends. And like the devastation on her face. I remember when we saw this in the theaters last year, everyone was like, ooh, like the collective, like, bro, did you just do that? Like,
well, especially because you get that, and we'll get into this in the next episode, but like, I am curious as to how much does MJ know that Peter's Spider-Man? We'll get into that later, but there's that moment where she kind of like touches her lips and she kind of turns, that she like recognizes the kiss, which I just realized something that we should mention before we end this episode.
The iconic kiss.
The upside down kiss.
we glossed over that, but we're here.
Unbelievable that's never been in a comic book.
Yeah, honestly.
That's created
for the movie. Like that is like up there with like images from like Casablanca and like The Wizard of Oz,
100%.
like and Titanic. Like that's up there with the like I'm king of the world of like cinema is like the kiss.
It's so like you can critique it in any you can reference it in anything and people are Spider-Man.
Shrek 2.
It comes
literally
up in Shrek 2.
does a Spider-Man riff.
They reference it in the second movie.
They do. They do. It's literally like a
they reference it in the third movie.
They do. Actually, they just keep going back to that. Well, I guess it's iconic.
A baseline. Basically.
There's a reason it was the highest grossing movie of its like era.
Yeah,
100 million. That was the new benchmark for like success.
Yeah,
it's really just going to be that. I think. I mean, it's going to break its own records going forward. I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then I think it's probably not going to be till like Avengers that it's really going to get like knocked out of the conversation of like highest grossing movie ever.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I can't remember.
Like it's going to have that run for like a good 12 years, 10 years.
I mean, it's certainly when this movie comes out, people are like, oh, things are going to be different now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Spider-Man becomes, and we get the sequel 2 years later.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like. He was already such a, you know, he's like the most famous superhero, arguably.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably him, Superman, or Batman.
Yeah, I mean, they're the big three for every child. Like it feels like Pokemon. Like you have to choose your starter. You know, you're like, which one am I going to go with? Spider-Man, Superman, Batman?
Yeah, he like
what kind of kid am I going to be?
Everybody.
What kind of underoos am I going to wear?
Yeah, like
for the next year.
He's
even when my parents have like company over.
He is like the superhero, you know what I mean? In a lot of ways.
And this movie is like it's gonna set the like structure for everything that's gonna come next. Like
totally.
And any movie that kind of like tries to not do this formula will not do as well, which is kind of funny.
Like I think kind of leave my thoughts on this with what Spider-Man, what makes this movie so effective is that like, you know, we talk about Batman being the most relatable because he's like a real person, but he is like a billionaire with like unbelievable resources and all this other stuff.
He's unfortunately in the 1%, so he's kind of not relatable.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess you can argue he's relatable because he's just like he's like a human being. But Spider-Man lasts, and he's continued to last because he is, I think, the most, like, he's so inherently
he's the most
relatable.
Easily accessible. Like the whole, you could just, even if he wasn't like becoming like a superhero in this movie, like the coming of age elements of this movie and the father-son dynamics, like this could just be like a drama.
Everyone's
of like, you're not my dad.
Struggled to catch a bus. Everyone struggled with finding a job after high school. Like all of these things. And it's.
I remember the first time I missed the bus. Like I like there was a minute in my life where like for a good 2 years several more than that. Like, 'cause I took the bus all throughout high school, but like the first time I missed the bus, I was like, it was just like the movie. Like,
I'm Spider-Man? Question mark.
The bongos kick in.
Heck yeah.
That explains why everyone was so mean to me.
I mean, it's a testament that after this movie that everybody tried to climb a wall. Madam Web references it.
You know, you could catch me in the corner of the pool at freaking 10 years old.
Yeah, on the edge. Heck yeah.
The Edge from U2? The band?
From Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark?
Yes.
Good. That's
Absolutely.
the only thing that I know them from. Have they done anything else?
That's next week's episode, right?
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark?
Yeah.
It's going to be now.
It's going to be. So probably. Now that we've mentioned it, I think we're going to have to derail our plans and watch something.
We're going to have to find some bootleg recording of that.
Yeah, bootleg recording where they hopefully don't kill like one of the 3 people that got hurt on that.
But I will say, in kind of going to the theme of this show, and we'll really ask the question, I think, a little more a little more broadly in terms of Spider-Man 3. But I think riding off of this movie, like the way it ends, like hell yeah, I want to see one more. Like I want to see where this goes. Like not just
just talking like, or were you saying like just right now, if this was the only Spider-Man movie,
if I'm in the
need
seat
another one,
and I'm walking out, like, you know, I being a kid, like
I think most of America agreed we could do a one more of these, like at the time.
Not just because it's cool, but because like I'm now become so deeply connected to Peter Parker, and I've grieved the losses that he's grieved, and you know,
it's like we're growing up with him.
It's also like I deeply, after this point, you want to see him him and MJ try to work stuff out.
Yeah, you want to see him. You want to see him get the girl.
Yeah, you want to see him. Hopefully, him and Harry figure stuff out.
Yeah, you want to see because that's like their friendship. You don't want to see them lose that. Too. It's just like part of the tragedy that is Spider-Man is like.
I think the big thing and the big question with sequels that we will continue to get into is there narrative runway going forward?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
From 1 into 2, absolutely. There's enough to like, there's a lot of, not loose ends on, but there's unanswered
there's room.
Catharsis.
Yeah.
There's yet to be had.
Sure.
With it all. And I think just that through line of with great power comes great responsibility, going to the question of should we come back to this universe in a multiverse solo film?
Sure.
Like I think I'm interested talking the next couple of weeks, like how that's gonna what's that conversation and answer the question of if we need one more.
That's true, and I guess you'll all just have to hang out and stick around and find out. Yeah.
So
I guess
I think we should just wrap it up
on the other side of the episode. Yeah. This is exciting. This is
very
the first
exciting.
time.
What a treat to like rewatch this movie again.
Oh, I do not rewatch this movie as much as I should.
Yeah.
It's so
this is like a movie I definitely take for granted because like I always think like, oh, I don't need to rewatch it, or like,
sure.
oh, well, I've seen it so much growing up on it, and then every time I go back to it, I'm just like catching new details. It's like Back to the Future, where you're just like, there's another setup, there's another setup, there's another setup. Like it's just A+. You could probably teach like a college course on filmmaking with this movie, like
totally
A+ movie.
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. If you've made it this far, like we have been wanting to do this for a while, and
so thanks for hanging out with us for. Hour and a half. I don't know what the time code is, but where are we at? We're way over. We're at 2 hours.
We're getting a 2.
I had a feeling we were at the 2 hours. Going to be. He said sheepishly an hour and a half.
It's the first episode.
It's the first episode. We're troubleshooting. We're gonna hone this down as we go. I had a game plan, but I'll save that for next week.
We'll hang on to it.
We'll hang on to it.
But I will say, like, thank you everybody for listening. Please follow.
Comment, like, and subscribe. Tell your friends if you like it, and if you want to see more of this. Obviously, we're gonna keep doing it whether you like it or not. So
We've decided.
We've decided we need one more.
That's true.
One more episode.
But yeah,
one more episode.
Let's do what's one more episode?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where can the people find you on the internets?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at Matt Davis Morris. And then I don't have Twitter, but you can find me on Threads at Matt Davis Morris. Oh, excuse me. Twitter, X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And
okay, gotcha.
Yes, he is. Owned by a sane, regular billionaire, right?
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram and Threads at Matt Davis Morris. I'm on Letterboxd at, I think it's Matt D. Morris. You can follow me on there to see what we're watching.
We'll put some names in
we'll put some things. We'll put them in the bio.
You can find us wherever you get a podcast. Yeah.
What about you?
You can find me on Instagram on Dave and Confused with a Z.
Heck yeah.
And I'm not really on Threads. I think it's the same handle though.
Sure.
Letterboxd I think is also Dave and Confused.
Nice.
With a Z. I lucked out on that one.
And you can follow us on TikTok and on Instagram at WNOM Podcast. We Need One More Podcast. Drop all the letters except the first one from We Need One More.
Yes.
And then you'll find us there, and we'll see more episodes coming.
Yeah. And then also follow 9Ball Creative.
Yes, follow 9Ball Creative, our wonderful, wonderful producer.
Yes.
Who's currently chuckling behind the cameras.
Checking the room, giving us our time codes, and looking so disappointed at me for not knowing how long we've been talking.
The
wave of shame that washed over me when I was like, oh, we're way over.
This podcast would not be possible without him.
It would not be.
So please follow him there.
So yeah.
But yeah, we'll catch everybody later. And
we'll see you all next week.
Yeah.
Well, we discuss if we need one more Spider-Man movie in this continuing series. Next week, Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
2004.
It's the second one.
Second one.
I didn't know that, actually. I just found out.
It clicked for me as you were saying it.
That the 2 implies that this is the second one.
Yes. I thought we were just giving numbers to things. Like, I'm 30. People keep saying that at me. I just was like, why are we doing this?
I don't know. Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
All right. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.